Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
Hey, this is Chris from the Ticket Stub. You're listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for coming to us to watch us and listen to us on the Cindy Cochran Show. I have a great guest for us. I put it on my Facebook, and he's going to just, it'll wow you. You'll love it, and you'll feel better for it. And like I told you, your heart would thank you for it. Okay, so listen, we are so excited that the Cindy Cochran Show is now sponsored by the Wooten Financial Group. And Chris Wooten is a great guy. Chris Wooten. His last name is spelled Wootton. So, Richard, how many times do you think he might have had kids during school go, woo-hoo? I mean, I just think that happened. And but it's a good way to remember Chris Wooten, Wooten Financial Group, and it'll help you with all your finances. Quit smiling, Richard. Just quit it. And so I want to tell you, though, here's how you get in touch with him. You call 936, I'm going to do 449-5952. I'm trying to memorize that so I can just like spit it out really fast. But it's 936-449-5952. And you can go to the website, and how do you spell it? Wootton financial.com. WootenFinancial.com. They're an independent fiduciary. I looked up fiduciary. I figured out what it was. Anything bad? It's good. It's all good. When you're a fiduciary, I just love saying that word. That means that you put your client first. The client always goes first, and if you do well, they'll do well. It's just works out that way. So you want to have the independent fiduciary advisors with professional advice to help you put the pieces of your retirement puzzle together. I love that. All right. And their key services are income tax, and estate investment and insurance planning. And so those are the key services for them. But I'll tell you what's cool about Chris is that Chris he's such a big-hearted guy. So when you talk to him, nobody's going to laugh at you. No, you did what? You bought what? You invested in what? No, he's going to help you get through it, and it'll be fine. And everybody wants somebody to help them with their money, right? Yes, of course. And he won't sell you any of that crypto stuff. No, he knew better. Like, don't get into that. No, that's not a good thing to get into. But anyway, so you guys, thank you so much for being our sponsor. We love you. We love you. And if anybody else out there wants to be a sponsor and be loved by us and be family, we'll be glad to have you. So go to Lone Star. I'm going to look at Richard, and Richard's not going to look at Lone Star Community Radio. And if you go to www.irlonestar.com, you can find out how you can be a sponsor. Isn't that right? Why are you looking at me like that, Richard? Richard, it hasn't changed way back since over the other studio. That's how you treat me. And I'm so sweet to him. I bring him sandwiches from Subway, and he's good on those days, but sometimes he's not. Anyway, so I wanted to introduce you to the guy I've been talking to. This is so exciting because we have luke.redus. Did I say it right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Saying it right. No one ever does.
Do they say redus?
Redus.
Redus.
Oh, everybody calls me Redus. Yeah.
Oh, luke.redus. I'm so excited. I know how to pronounce something. But he's my guest today. He is the founder of Compassion United, and I'm so happy to find out that is a huge umbrella that takes a lot of programs under it, and you help so many people. And I want to tell you how I met Luke. I went out to the Lewis Park, and we did a video on the breakfast they serve the homeless people every Saturday. Every Saturday they're out there, and Monday through Friday they were at the Chop House downtown Conroe. And that's on. Is that on? Not on Main.
It was on West Davis, but now we're on Foster Drive.
Foster Drive. Okay, on Foster Drive. Anyway, what's so funny is that I met him because I thought the Chop House was a pork chop restaurant, and I went in there. I felt so stupid. I went in there, and everybody was in line, and they were getting food and all that. And I didn't notice any pork chops. I didn't. And so I asked someone, is this a restaurant, or is this? No, we're feeding, the homeless and people who are struggling. And if you're welcome to go through the line. I said, that's okay. I feel so stupid. I'm so sorry. And I left, and I was like, good grief, the Chop House. It's Conroe House of Prayer. Of course. But my mind goes to the food always. But I think then I came out later and I did a video of everybody, and I talked to them, and everybody was so great. It was wonderful. And so churches donate their time and food and come out and serve, and it's a great success. So I'm so glad to know that that's all still happening, and that you've even grown so much.
Yeah, we think it's going to stick.
I think so. I think so.
Yeah, we started January the 7th will be 17 years since we first started. And that was with me and my wife, Carla, and our 3 sons. We got up on January the 7th, 2006. We made 200 potato and egg tacos, and we started looking for hungry people in Conroe. And then everything has just kind of grown from there.
And so you were just physically going up to the people that were sitting in the park or sitting on side of the road and stuff, and said, "Are you hungry?"
Yeah.
And that was it.
That was it.
That's so great.
Yeah.
And it grew from that. Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
Yeah. So we started doing that and started going to a bunch of different camps. And we are a Christian organization, but like it wasn't a very hard sell evangelical kind of thing. It was really kind of a relational type. They knew who we were, Mm-hmm. And so. But going to all of those camps kind of took a long time, and then the church that we were attending at the time wanted to get more involved. They found out what we were doing, and they wanted us to allow volunteers to come. And so that's when a year later we started setting up in the city park, and that was Breakfast in the Park, and we started that 16 years ago.
That's great. I mean, it was such a huge event, and all these people holding hands and praying in this humongous circle in the park, and it was wonderful. And the food that people were serving was dynamite. It wasn't like somebody's like an old frozen thing. They had,
Right.
Here, why don't you take this? The food was excellent. So do you demand that, or do you tell people? Do you say,
No.
Look, when you bring food, please make it?
Yeah, we have guidelines. We do. We put out a
That's
sheet
great.
of paper that says this many pounds of, meat, and we specify that that's going to be bacon or sausage or something like that. Because, what we saw going into this, we were actually trying to get involved with other organizations who were serving. And what we saw was that people, would listen to some guy, cast hellfire and brimstone on them for 45 minutes, and then they would get a half a cup of rice with 2 tablespoons of chili on top. And we didn't really feel like that communicated love.
Right.
And so, cooking has always been a hobby of mine, and so I came up with the menu early in the day, and we've always had a pretty high standard on that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we don't apologize for it. So
No, you do. Let me tell you what happened, because I'm sitting and thinking about you and what all the things that you've been involved in, and I had to go to St. Luke's today, and I came around St. Luke's and getting ready to go under the freeway, and I'm thinking, what am I going to get for lunch? I've got to get some lunch. And this girl's selling flowers. Mm-hmm. I thought she was selling flowers, but what she did, she had the sign up and said, "Help me, I'm hungry, and do you want some flowers," or something that. And so she came over to me, and she said, do you want some flowers? And I said, no. And I said, and I don't have any cash. I just have a card. And she says, well, then could you go get me something to eat? And I went, well, yeah. And I said, so what do you want? She says, just French fries. I said, you just want French fries? She says, well, okay, hamburger. Okay, and a drink. And that would be enough. And I said, okay. And there's a McDonald's sitting right there. So I said, oh, okay. And she went, yeah, like, sure, you're going to bring me back something. So I said, you go, this is a challenge. And so I went through McDonald's, got it, came back out. And I thought, there's no way to get back turned around. And how do if I'm going to find her? And so it was, God just parted the cars.
Yeah.
And I was able to go down and come back around. And there she was. And I held out the McDonald's bag. And she was going, yay. She was so happy.
That's wonderful.
And she started, I said, well, this is from God. I mean, this is not from me, because believe me, I would not have turned around trying to get back in this traffic again and do this. This is all God, okay? And she says, no, and I'm going to pray. I'm going to pray and thank him for sending you to feed me.
Yeah.
It was so great. And you have such a great feeling when you leave that, because you would never stop in traffic, especially, and the way that traffic was, you just go like, sorry, you probably have $500 in your back pocket, and just rush it away. But it was, you are convicted. You are convicted if you have ever done anything like that before. You know what that means to somebody,
Right.
for them to believe that they're good people, or they're people that will try and take care of them. And that's who you are. You're the one that is their hope, and they know that you're not going to give up on them. I think that's amazing journey that you're on. Well, you've been on for a long time.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's going to stick.
Yeah.
And what has been the real blessing is to see the evolution of how, sort of our approach is outreach, relief, and empowerment. And so, go to where the people in need are, and meet a relief need. Whether it's clothing, whether it's food, whether it's just sitting down and talking to them.
Right.
And but then, like, our goal has always been to take people from relief to empowerment. We want to affect change in people's lives to the degree that they don't need to sell flowers on the side of the road anymore. And so we have, since 2010, started developing what's become a very robust offering of services that work like in all aspects of the poverty landscape to help people, move from that place of being hopeless and not knowing, how to do life, to a place of being on their own. So,
well, I remember telling my mom, she would, any person standing on had a sign, she'd stop and give them some money. If it was change or whatever it was, she gave it to them. And I said, Mom, they're probably not going to use that for anything good. They're going to go get cigarettes, or they're going to get some drink, and they're going to drink, or they're going to weed. You just don't know. She goes, look, God told me to give to the poor. This guy's poor, and that's what he told me to do.
Yeah.
And I did my thing. I did exactly what he said to do. I don't worry about that part. I just give to them, and that's all I'm doing. And I said, well, you're probably right. Okay, all right. I'll just go with that. I'll just give and not feel like if they don't use it for good, then they're not, they're not being blessed. That's
on them.
There's my problem. I've got the problem, not them. Because they probably were very happy to have any change, anything to, to make it through the day. But my mom was just, she taught us a lot about giving and doing things for other people, and very, selflessly.
Yeah.
Yes, it was fine.
Yeah.
And it does make you feel so good. So who's the winner there?
Yeah. It's interesting where we do this in our society. And I was just thinking about this, how like we'll withhold a particular action because some people have taken advantage of it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, like in regard to the poor, like we'll deny helping the poor because some people have not really been poor, they've acted poor, and they've taken advantage of us.
Right.
But we go and we vote all the time You know, I mean, those guys, you know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? You know,
right.
not getting political
true,
there, but
right.
like, you know, that's the thing. You know, we don't withhold that action, you know,
No.
but like, you know, that's been one of the challenges of the work that we do is the stigma that people have, you know, and that's something that we've worked really diligently to try to help educate people. I mean, there's no across the board reason why, you know, these people are bums. You know, I was sitting in a restaurant here one time, and there was a gentleman in the restaurant, and he knew who I was. He disagreed with what I was doing because at that time I was still doing it in downtown, and I get all that. And he wanted to hear me talking. He wanted me to hear him talking, right? And he was having a
Right.
conversation. He's like, "Yeah, these people, you know, they just need to get a job. They're just bums, you know."
Right.
And I got really upset because the story is really deeper than that. It's not just that people don't want to work.
Right.
You know, if you take somebody who was traumatized at 12 years old, their emotional development stopped then, right?
Right.
It's called arrested development.
Arrested development.
So, 8 years later, they're a 20-year-old, but they're still emotionally a 12-year-old. They get a job, and there's conflict on the job, and they act like a 12-year-old. They lose the job. As a 12-year-old, it's not their fault. So they go get another job and another job. And this just happens throughout their life, and they never are given the tools to emotionally grow, and into a place where they can live on their own, you know? And so there's this concept called complex trauma. And complex trauma, that is a form of complex trauma. You know, a period of time when someone is feeling unsafe or they're not having a need met in their life. And that causes them to think in certain ways that are damaging and restricting to them.
Right.
And 97% of people who are addicted are victims of complex trauma. And I would say that 100% of people who are homeless, we actually have been trained to facilitate a recovery program that deals with the underlying complex trauma, and it is a huge deal. I mean, I'll tell you, briefly my story. I was abandoned by my parents. I was raised by somebody else. There was a lot of complex trauma in my life. I ended up homeless myself. Alcohol, drugs, all of that stuff in my life. And I'm going through this training so I can help other people. And I realize the degree to which the complex trauma of my childhood still affects me today. You know? And the only reason why I was able to get anywhere is, man, I found a girl who had a good, healthy family, and they took me in, whenever I was still in my, I was 21, and I got to see what family was, and I got to heal a little bit, but most people don't have that opportunity.
Right.
And those are the people who, are standing on the side of the road with the sign that will say they don't want to work, And
That's interesting because it is, it's so prevalent right now, and people that don't give or that are hesitant to give don't want to look stupid. They don't want to think that somebody took advantage of them.
Sure.
So they try to protect all of that.
Yeah.
And like you say, even though we keep going and voting for people who lie through their mouth and they never do what they say, and they take advantage of our tax dollars and all. So I mean, I think it's so we've gotten so skeptical, and I just can't imagine how you must have to struggle with a majority of people that are they're not going to do it because they just don't think, one, it's going to do any good, because they're always going to go back to the drugs, they're always going to go back and all that stuff. But what you're doing, though, is giving them the opportunity, at least giving them the opportunity to make a choice.
Right.
And see that there really is such a thing as love and caring and hope.
Yeah. So we have what we call the components of our culture. Whenever you're part of our residential program or even part of the Conroe House of Prayer congregation. And the components of that culture are family, empowerment, transformation, and identity. And if you ask anyone who has completed our program, like without a doubt, 100% of the time, what was the biggest takeaway? They will tell you, now I have a family.
Oh.
And that's what people need. People, the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection. That's what heals people, is community and love.
Okay, I tried to read this without crying, and I couldn't do it, so I'm going to have you read it. I want you to read it. This is this is from the impact report they had. And on this, there was a story of a success story. And there's many of those.
Oh, yeah.
And so I started reading it, and I thought, I can't get through this, but Luke.
Yeah, this is Olivia. It says, my release from jail left me homeless and living at a local shelter. I went to the Cochran House of Prayer one day and decided to make it my daily routine. After a few weeks, I began helping in their clothing closet and was eventually invited into Hosanna House. That's our transition house for women. I took full advantage of their resources and began growing closer to God. Through the Fresh Start program, that's our empowerment program, I was taught the tools that I still use today to help set my life in a new direction. I'm now blessed to be working full-time and parenting my children again. The leaders of Compassion United are truly the hands and feet of Jesus. And I got to actually baptize both of her kids. It was beautiful.
And finish the line, the hands and feet of Jesus.
The hands and feet of Jesus, yeah.
I thought, wait. With a smile. I must have read that in another story, but I thought it said the hands and feet of Jesus with a smile. That's who they are. And I think that when you tell the story about your life and that you've been through all this, so this isn't any intellectual response to the different things that happen. It's your heart that you've been through this. You were hurt like these people were hurting. So when you talked at the church, the kids just, it's funny because we have a big youth section, and then we were upstairs, and my grandchildren were there and their friends. And so I'm sitting there listening to you and going like, I didn't know all this about Luke. I didn't know this. And so I'm hearing this, and I turn around, and both of them were off their phone. Both of them were off their phone and watching you. And then I looked down at the kids downstairs, and they all had their head turned toward you. And it was like you really were connecting with them, because what my grandchildren said was, this guy is real. I mean, this guy's real. He's been through it. And so he's just not, it's not like a commercial or something. He's trying to tell us what you could do to help these people, and what he did to help himself and get through it. So it was unbelievable. And I was just so proud to know you. And you see how God has used you and took you out of where you were and met your wife, and and so you're really blessed. And so it's amazing. And you have what's funny is that you, in your early years, you kind of went against that grain. And then whenever you found what you needed to be doing, you were talking about looking in the eyes of someone who's homeless.
Yes.
And tell me that story. That would just...
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and that's coming from a place of, we talk about being the hands and feet of Jesus, and we talk about wanting to know Jesus. And as Christians, it's usually done in the context of a church service or a meeting or something like that. But we had a situation, my wife and I we were driving on 75 in Willis, and there was an old gentleman who would walk back and forth on the street there. And, he had a stroke. And so half of his body wasn't functioning properly. He would drag one leg. He could not communicate. He couldn't speak. And we just would see him walking every day. Well, one day we were driving into Conroe, and we saw him standing in the middle of a parking lot, and his pants were down around his ankles. And my wife says to me, "We've got to do something about that." So I turn around, I go back into the parking lot, and this is uncomfortable. Like, I'm going to walk up to a man and, it was a very undignified situation for him. I mean, thinking about it, he doesn't have the physical ability to reach down and pull up his pants.
Right.
He can't turn around and walk back in, because if he does, he's going to fall.
Right.
All he can do is stand there in this undignified place, exposed, and just hope somebody will help him, right? And I got to be honest with you, I didn't want to.
Right.
But I walked up to the guy, and the only thing I could think of to say was, "Let me help you with that." And so I bend down, and I grab him by the pants, and I smelled urine, and I smelled just body odor, and it was horrible. And then all of a sudden, it just turned beautiful, and I had an encounter with God in that moment, pulling up this old man's pants like I never have before. And so I feel like that's an amazing message to the church, is that Jesus said, "That which you've done unto the least of my brethren, you've done unto me." And if we ever truly, we're never going to fully be able to look into the face of Jesus if we're not willing to look into the eyes of the suffering.
Amen, brother. I think that was so powerful, and it reminds me of like the scripture that says, you could be entertaining angels unaware,
Right.
And so I think so I consider that girl that, and that's what you have to think of after you have a feeling of, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
But how dare you, Cindy, how dare you not help somebody?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Could we go to a break, Richard, so I could get myself back together again? Thank you so much.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Every week, people ask the same two questions. Are they ready to retire? Will their savings last for their lifetimes? Hi, this is Chris Wooten with Wooten Financial Group. Our firm has been in Montgomery County for decades, but the hopes and dreams of the people we serve never change. We help answer these two questions and many more that people have about their uncertain financial future. We have a simple introductory client experience that allows us to get to know the client and includes a few meetings for the client to kick the tires at no charge. We provide a concise, one-page summary that helps the client get a better handle on which questions are the right questions for them. To learn more about Wooten Financial Group's process in helping their clients to a clearer financial future and to see their contact information, visit Cindy Cochran's show page on irlonestar.com/TCCS. Wooten Financial Group is a proud sponsor of the Cindy Cochran Show. Wooten Financial Group is available by phone at 936-449-5952 or visit them on the web at www.wootenfinancial.com. That's www.woottonfinancial.com.
And we're back. Yes, we are. And you are listening to the Cindy Cochran Show, and it's sponsored by not Chris Wooten by himself. They're Wooten Financial Group. And I always just want to say, they are so great. And when you guys call this number, 936-449, I thought I knew it. I'm gonna memorize this. 5952. 936-449-5952. Okay, say it.
936-449-5952.
Yes,
Okay.
Very good. Okay, all right. So anyway, they're our sponsors, and they're beautiful people, and you'll love them. We've got to talk to Luke.redus here, and Luke is just amazing. He is the founder of Compassion United, and part of the thing that they do, and it just opened Miracle City, right? Mm-hmm. Miracle City, what a great name. And this is where you hold services, mm-hmm. and do you house people in there, or is it just?
So our residential programs are still off-site.
Okay.
And all that we have on-site right now is what we call our empowerment center, and we just completed construction of that and moved into that. We had our first service on Good Friday. We had baptism services there. And so that currently is where we're hosting our morning chop services, serving breakfast and such. That's where our offices are, but it's also where we house all of our classroom space for the classes that we offer for people to help them transition out of homelessness.
So if you have a loved one or you know someone that is homeless and has been in a shelter, and so that they can take them and bring them to you at the Miracle City, and you could help get them into some place that they could.
Well, we'd recommend they stay in the shelter.
Well,
yeah.
But I mean, don't you provide them? What kind of housing are you
Right.
doing?
So what we do is transitional housing, and like our capacity currently is limited to 10 men and 5 women. And so that is a structured program that helps them holistically overcome all of their, all of the things that have been holding them back in life while they're still doing life. So whereas some programs will say, we're going to sequester you away and pound Bible into you and teach you all this stuff, but you're not really going to be able to
Function.
then we're going to release you and let you go.
Yeah.
When people are in our program, you've got to get a job. You have financial responsibilities because grown-ups pay rent,
Right.
And we help them do that, and so that's what our program is. Now, we are in the process. Ideally, we'll be able to begin construction of our first transition house on site at Miracle City within the next 2 to 3 months.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
so the plan is to ultimately have 5 transition houses on site. And each one, 4 of those transition houses will hold 16 people. Each that will be 2 transition houses for men and 2 for women. And then we'll have a fifth transition house that will be for women in crisis pregnancy and for their children.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know about the women in crisis.
Yeah, so we had a crisis pregnancy home up until Hurricane Harvey. And Harvey, we lost our pregnancy home, and the plan is to rebuild it back whenever we can on Miracle City.
Oh man.
So we're going to launch our capital campaign for our transition home project in January, and that will be building the first 3 houses. But we're in a partnership with Home Aid Houston and Highland Homes, and they've sponsored the first house as a project. So we should be able to see construction of that begin in the next few months.
So if somebody comes to Miracle City, what would they be met with? Like, if they said, I don't have any place to go, I don't know what to do.
So what we would initially do is say, let's get you an emergency shelter and go from there.
Okay.
From our perspective, the first thing that we need to make sure we're doing is protecting the people who are in the home already. And so if we bring people in without knowing them a little bit, that jeopardizes the culture and the safety of the home. And
Right.
so if they're an emergency shelter, we start talking to them as they're coming to the house of prayer. And we're getting to know them relationally, and then we're able to see whether or not they're ready to be in transition. Some people, we find that a lot of people want to change their life, like whenever it starts getting really, really cold or really, really hot. And it's not that they want to change their life, they just want to change their living conditions. And so, but whenever we have I was telling you earlier about our approach being outreach, relief, and empowerment. So when we're able to be there, we're going to be meeting that need for them daily, but then we're able to move them into the next step of relief into empowerment by getting to know them relationally, and then we'll invite them into our program from there.
And I don't think you're a person that would give up on anyone easily, that you would, stay with me, even though they are fighting what they like to be like, but they're fighting it, and they're resisting it. Do you at one point say, okay, we just don't think you've got this in you to be who you need to be?
Well, people, it's funny when people say, what's your success rate? And it's a hard question for me to answer because I don't feel like anyone's going to fail. I just feel like they're not ready yet. Mm-hmm. We have people who come into our program and will say, you're not, after a few months or whatever, if they're just not, it's like you're not ready yet. You will typically those people will leave though. They'll kick themselves out.
Oh,
so
okay.
we don't do it, but we call them boomerangs, because we know they'll be back around. Mm-hmm. And so we've had people who have been in our program, First time it didn't work. Second time it didn't work. Third time they're doing great.
That's wonderful.
And so I know for me, I know the struggle of really wanting to not use drugs, but not knowing how to not use drugs.
Right.
Because the thing is, the drugs aren't the problem. The alcohol's not the problem. It's the solution. It's just a bad solution. And so if they will give themselves over to the program, we can help them exchange that for the right solution. But letting go of that wrong solution is terrifying.
I bet. It's interesting to me because you're coming across so many different types of people that are coming to you with their backgrounds and backstories and things like that. But do you ever, we see this on the streets of different northern cities, but not here, is the violence that comes with mental health problems.
Yeah.
How do y'all address that?
Well, we have somebody from Tri-County who's typically like every day of the week who is at the house with us. We are very, very good at handling those situations. We don't get we invite people to come over here and tell me what's going on. Tell me where you are right now. I understand that you're feeling that way. That's got to be hard. Let's take. We know a lot of regulation. Self-regulation techniques. Hey, let's do this. Do this with me. Let's do some funny breathing. Breathe with me like this. And just really help them calm down. Now there's some people who are, we've got one guy who comes around and he's got micro computers, micro robots under his skin. And I'm like, man, that's terrible. I hate to hear that you have micro robots under your skin. Come on, let's go get in line and get some breakfast. So like,
Yes.
you love them, like, and you just,
What a gift.
help
What
them
a
be where
gift.
they are. But,
Yeah.
and it's entertaining. It's sad. I don't mean that to be
I
like,
understand.
but you've got to, it's like, yeah, Tommy, man, I'm sorry to hear that you've got micro robots.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Yes, like, what else should I say about this? And,
Right,
but
yeah.
I think that, but you just acknowledge what he's going through and then
Well, it's real-
take him to the
yeah,
next.
it's real to him.
Yeah.
It's real to him.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people that have had really strange things, they go like, what happened to me the other night? I dreamed that someone came into the, and it happened to them. And that's what they saw. That's what they felt.
Right.
That's what happened to them. And you can't discount.
Yeah, you don't want to say, you're crazy. That didn't happen to you.
That didn't, your brain can make you all kind of think
Yeah.
all kind of things, and,
Yeah,
and
so-
you answer it for them. But I think that you have to have some kind of compassion like that,
Yeah.
where you're not going to be triggered by them saying something stupid and you get mad at them and start all that.
Yeah.
So when you have people that are working for you, your staff, are they trained in that, or do you know that they might have a propensity to get too angry or temperament's not right?
Yeah, no, there's no one on our staff like that. If they feel like it's something that's overwhelming to them, they know to come and get me or Carla, who's my wife, or Terry Watt, who's worked with us for 10 years now, and we all are able to kind of navigate those situations.
That's great.
Worst comes to worst, we'll say something like, man, look, you're really having a rough day right now, and we have to protect everyone here, so why don't you take a break and give us a shot tomorrow? Let me get you a to-go plate so that you're not hungry, and come on back tomorrow. We'd love to have you. And that's
And that usually calms them and makes them go like, okay, that's cool.
most of the time.
Yeah.
Some people are like, no, I ain't leaving, and then we got to call the cops. So
Oh, you
yeah.
do?
Oh yeah.
So
yeah,
you have
yeah. We do. We've got people that are that we have to call the cops on.
Oh, that's that's life.
Yeah. But
So
with that,
you
in
gotta
that
figure out-
situation, that's usually drug induced.
Yes, because you don't feel like
So
you're dealing with that person
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's interesting is that you know so many different psychological barriers that you're having to break through, and things that are put up in front of you, and how to get them down. But you have so much confidence that there's no problem. God can do anything, and He said that. So I'm just going to go with that.
Well, if I could get spiritual for a second, I do believe that we think of peace as maybe a feeling or whatever, but peace is something that we actually carry. Paul said that the kingdom of heaven isn't about food or drink, but joy, peace, and righteousness in the Holy Ghost. And so 1/3 of the kingdom there is peace. And peace is not just this feeling, it's this tangible thing that we can appropriate. And, it's the new way that Jesus brought. And so we have the ability to carry that peace into those situations. I have stepped in between two people who were slugging it out, and I simply said the words, "Hey, peace to you guys," and they stopped right there.
Oh my
and so
Lord.
if you carry we have that, and I believe in faith.
Right.
That I've had somebody one guy told me he was going to crack my skull open with a baseball bat. And I said, well, that's just not going to be any fun, man. Let's go get something to eat. One guy told me he was going to knock the crap out of me. And I'm like, well, man, you're not going to do that. You're too good for that, So, the peace of God disarms. It disarms our enemies.
Yes, that's right. And when He says, I can give you a peace that passes all understanding, I love that, because someone in your position being able to talk calmly to people and do all that you have a peace about you, and that no one can understand that.
Yeah,
People
that
outside
makes
go
sense.
like, wait a minute, no, I would kill that guy for doing that, or I would, mess that guy up really for saying that to me. And that's how they're going to react. But when you have that, it does make people go like, I don't get it. How can you do that? Or even, in fact, why in the world would you have ever begun a program like this? Because people usually try and walk on the other side of the street instead of passing or stepping over someone who's asleep on the sidewalk. And it's so funny. I mean, God must have a great sense of humor, because He gave us a story in the Bible about the priests and all them passing by and all, and then this guy that comes helps, and He's saying, maybe y'all haven't had enough of that. Maybe y'all need a little more reminder that this is what you need to be doing, and you do. You just slap us in the face, going, look, if I can do this, you can do this, and this is what people at this time of year. And I know a lot of times people go, oh, everybody starts asking handout because people want to give during this time of year. But we need it all year long. We don't need it just at Christmas or Easter.
We'll take it here.
We're certainly going to take it. We're not going to refuse it. But the people that it makes them feel better because they give. Sure. And so that should be like a little inch of, like, this is what you should be doing all the time. And you'll feel good all the time because you'll be giving, of yourself, of your finances or whatever. Right. But people feel like, okay, I'll give you the money. That's so much easier for me than having to go in there and serve people that are homeless. So if you'll take the money, then I'll be sure and give you more of that, so I don't have to deal with that. Yeah. I think God must. It's interesting just try and figure out. Like, God's got to look at that and go, I'm giving you. Oh, thank you for being on my level. See, now we can see eye to eye.
Yeah.
But God must think at one point, y'all are funny. You really don't. You want to give, and because all you're doing is so that you don't have to do it. Right. And maybe that wasn't what I meant by that. I meant you should give, and you have to be happy about giving. Right. And so He put conditions on the giving.
Yeah. And I'll say that there's some people who come out to serve. And I see they know they're, biblically speaking, supposed to do that. Right. But they also kind of bring their
judgmental,
their ideas into it. And, they're the ones that'll come out and be like, why don't these people get a job? What's wrong with these? How many of these people are drug addicts? And I'm like,
They say that out loud.
Just write the check. No, yeah. I mean, there's those who, generosity is a spiritual gift, and sometimes it's because, manners aren't.
That's right. he's lacking in one, but he has the heart for the other.
I just believe that. I believe that. I don't really do this because Jesus, it's in the Bible. I mean, I just, they're worth it.
Yes.
That's what I believe, is I believe that they're worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we chose the name Miracle City for the project. It's I don't know if you know the history behind why Conroe was once called Miracle City.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Conroe, quick story. This is great. This is how we honor Conroe, with this. So in the 30s, Conroe was about to shut down. It was dependent on timber, and that had gone south. The bank had closed. The school was about to close, and George Strake had been an oil wildcatter. He had made a fortune in Cuba, and then he went to Mexico and lost it all. And then he came up. He was living in Houston, and he would come up to Conroe to hunt. And one of the things that he would notice when he was up here hunting is like certain game trails and where they would go, and streams that are in bodies of water that animals wouldn't drink out of. And he thought, I bet there's oil here. And everybody told him, no, you need to go west. And he was so sure that he pawned everything that he owned, and he started drilling in southeast Conroe. And at a depth of about, I want to say 5,600 square feet, he hit what was one of the largest oil reserves in North America. And overnight, Conroe had more per capita millionaires than any city in the country.
Oh,
and that's how
man.
Conroe got the nickname Miracle City. George Strake saw treasure where everything else was dying.
That's awesome.
And
I love
when
that
we
story.
see people that the world will divert their eyes from, and people that the world wants to cast away, and I believe, and Jesus believes, that there's a treasure in that person. And if we're willing to hawk everything that we own,
Yes.
and be persistent in love with them, we're going to see that treasure. Right, and that's right. That's Olivia right there.
That's Olivia. Yeah, that's perfect story.
Dan Freeman is the coordinator of our transit men's home, and he is also a graduate of our men's home. Cody Bartlett is our administrative assistant, and she's the coordinator of our women's home. She's also graduated our women's program. There's families that are back together now, right? There's kids whose parents are home,
And you have brought so many veterans out of the forest that is just, people don't understand it. That's where they go to live, is they live in the forest. And someone told me about that. So I said, well, we got to go out there and talk to them and interview them and do this. This is the last thing they wanted, was to have somebody come out and interview them. That wasn't cool.
Know where they are.
I found that out real good, real fast. And I knew that, but it was so interesting because of what they have gone out there. We've lived with nothing, in the Army and the military, you go through a lot of struggles.
Right.
And so this is nothing for us. This is like paradise for us.
Yeah.
We can do this. And so, but that has become such a horrible thing, and the suicides that have happened and all that.
Yeah.
So to have any kind of hope, or say, okay, you may not be able to make it here, but we've got some people over here that'll take you and take care of you. And so many people are so glad about that you're there, and that they don't have to be. But what they could do was to give. And so you tell them how they can give.
Okay, so one thing as far as how to give, if you've never heard of us before and you'd like to know more, of course you can go to the website. But one of the things that we're doing is on New Year's Eve, on December 31st, from noon to 4. At our Miracle City campus at 350 Foster Drive, we're going to have, it's called our year-end rally open house, and we do this every year. I'm going to make barbecue, and it's. I would never say I make the best barbecue you ever tasted.
ahead, say it.
Other people would say that.
Say it.
But it's going to be some good barbecue.
Yeah.
But it's an opportunity to really get to know kind of what we do and who we are and what the plans are. I'll tell you, like from a financial standpoint, if you look on our website and on our impact report, we have the Charity Navigator top-rated nonprofit with Candid, which used to be I drew a blank. GuideStar, not GuideStar. Well, it's the Platinum Seal of Transparency. So all of our finances are out there.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's
we're
very
registered
good.
with the Better Business Bureau.
Mm-hmm.
We get audited every year. Our finances are tight, and everything is transparent. But if you want to find out more about us, you can all. I would love to see you come and visit us on December 31st at Miracle City. The other thing is our website, CompassionUnited.us.
It's .us.
Yes, .us.
Okay. CompassionUnited.us. Okay.
Yeah.
I've been saying the wrong thing. Okay, so that would be great because you're right. If I get to go and I see, touch, feel, hear,
Sure.
and all that, you're going to be much more wanting to be part of this. Yeah.
Well, and there's other opportunities for people to like even volunteer and get involved. We're not just a homeless organization. So
Right.
we have programs for children and youth as well. Destiny Kids and City of Light. And City of Light is actually at your church.
Yes.
We host that out there. We have a food pantry in Cut and Shoot that it's going to be, I don't know if I can announce it yet. I can't.
Okay. Well, just call me and tell me. And
Yeah.
we'll talk
Well,
about it.
it's a very good food pantry, and
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be recognized by the Montgomery County Food Bank, thusly. But that'll be on social media like probably tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've served 32,000 individuals through that food pantry, and so we have opportunities to volunteer at our food pantry, at our mobile markets, in our youth and children's ministry. We need mentors, bus drivers, volunteers, people to serve food, and we would just love if you don't have a dime to give, that's quite all right, and even if you have millions to give, that's all right too. We would also just love if you're nice to come and be a part of this.
People want to know how to give. They just don't know what to do with themselves. And so when you have all these opportunities that you need people to come in and do that, this is going to be great. I'm so happy. I'm so happy for you. And I think, and you said we had 1 minute a while ago? Oh, we have 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay.
Good. On Thursday, today is Tuesday, right?
Yes,
Today's Tuesday.
all day.
And tomorrow's Wednesday. Tomorrow is just going to be Richard and me, and we just talk about everything and anything, and it's so much fun. And it's like a real talk show at that point. And then Thursday we have Charlie Cash. If you've been around, have you been around Houston and Conroe and that for a long time?
20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
I'm sure you
22 years.
You didn't know that you'd heard Charlie Cash play, but Charlie's played around town for like forever, and he does Christmas carol postcard, video card that he sends out every year for last 14 years. So he's going to tomorrow, Thursday, bring this guy that it was. I just happened to look at it, and the song he sang, it was called "My Grown Up Christmas List." And I don't know where the song came from, but he sang it, and it was just I talk about crying. It was horrible, but it was the most beautiful message. It was talking about when I was a little kid. I sat on your knee, and I gave this. Now I have but I still have a Christmas list, and he talks about no more wars. Everybody love each other. It goes through the whole thing, and it was just amazing. So they're gonna be here, and they're gonna talk about that part of Christmas and do that. But
That sounds fun.
the giving part and getting to go to the park and work through the Lewis Park every Saturday to help with the serving. And so there's so much that's going on good that I'm just so excited that you're doing. Thank you so much for taking the time to be out here.
Oh, it's my
You're a
pleasure.
busy guy, and you
Well,
took the time. Thank you.
No, my pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity to come and share, and it's always good to see you.
It was good to see you, and you got to come back again.
Absolutely.
Okay, and bring your
Absolutely.
wife and
Yeah.
the whole gang. But listen, so we got to go. And so tomorrow, how interesting that conversation is always between Richard and I. And so you guys be back. And then Thursday we'll have Charlie and myself to come sing for you. Anyway, so I will see you tomorrow. And first responders, we love you so much. We love you. We love you.
This program is sponsored by the Wooten Financial Group. It is not the intent of Wooten Financial Group to render or offer personalized investment advice or financial planning advice through this radio program or any related website. Wooten Financial Group's participation in this program is limited to providing general information on financial matters and should not be construed as financial recommendation or investment advice. Investment advisory services are offered through Game Plan Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission and the state of Texas. Insurance services are offered through Wooten Financial Group, Inc. Game Plan Advisors and Wooten Financial Group, Inc. are affiliated through common ownership, and neither firm is affiliated with The Cindy Cochran Show. No listener should assume that any information presented and or made available on this program serves as the receipt of or a substitute for personalized individual advice from Game Plan Advisors, Wooten Financial Group, or any of their representatives.